welcome back to the Passenger Seat Podcast, a podcast designed to fill your passenger seat with chat about classic cars, all recorded from my 1968 Morris Minor Peggy. I'm Becca and welcome to the 11th season of the podcast. I had a slightly longer than anticipated break off between seasons this time. Lots of stuff happened, I was very busy, lots of stuff going on, and I just didn't have a chance to get set back up and going again, and it gave me an opportunity to have a good think about how the podcast has been going and what I want to do going forward. Getting to 10 seasons was something I never imagined when I first set this podcast up back when I did it many years ago now, and I think it's time for me to shake things up a little bit, try something a little bit different with some of it, and hopefully keep you all listening wherever you are listening from. So we'll get on to that a little bit later on in the podcast, but first up, let's get on to what kept me away for so long. The last I spoke to you all, it was the NEC, and we just had the Practical Classics restoration show at the NEC, where the Women Drivers Social Club had an absolutely fantastic time, coming away with an award and a fantastic stand and growing membership numbers. And so obviously some of that kept me quite busy in the aftermath, trying to keep on top of some of the chatting with new members, getting people introduced, and also getting people signed up to our upcoming events, because our two camps this year needed kind of information off people relatively early on in the season, so I needed to get those out to people as soon as I could afterwards, which has kept me quite busy. And then on the more fun side of things, I've had lots of things going on. So I usually have my break around this time of year because it gives me my birthday off. This year I didn't do too much. Obviously last year I spent basically the whole day in Peggy, setting off from home and ending up over in Conwy, ready to head off on our Irish adventure. And this year we just used her to poodle around, go for some bowling, go for some pizza, a really lovely kind of 13-year-old's birthday party almost. And not long after that I had a photo shoot with Classic Worlds magazine for an article that they were doing about Peggy and myself, and also more generally the Morris Minor. That is the issue that I think is still currently out at this moment, but won't be around for too much longer. So if you haven't managed to grab yourself a copy of that and you're looking to see some of the lovely photos from that shoot, the shoot that actually ended up to being two shoots, because the photographer very briefly thought he'd lost all of the photos, so we redid some of them a couple of days later on his way back past, and then he had the opportunity to pick the best from both of the two shoots. But a really lovely article. We got 7 pages, which was totally unexpected, much more than I thought when I picked up the magazine, so that was really exciting to see. What else did we have going on? I did a podcast with the old car lady, and that was really fascinating, really great to speak to her and kind of compare her experiences on the classic car scene with my own, and my experiences of daily driving a classic, and also start a real big conversation on quite a decent platform about the cost of insuring these cars for younger people. It's something that I've been talking about pretty regularly for some time now on the podcast, and to get someone else as interested and as invested in it as I am has been really good, and we're hoping that there will be some interest from some of the classic car press and things like that on the subject, because it's something that I think is really holding back that ownership of cars for young people. Obviously, if a young person wants to own a classic car, they're going to find ways to do it, and to the best of their ability. And there is a good number of people, particularly with young Morris Minor owners and stuff, but we could be missing out on tons of potential owners if only we had good insurance schemes that were more supportive of young members in place. So hopefully we get to see some further development of that, and a bit more pressure on those insurance companies to keep offering young people affordable deals on their insurance. I also had, as you might have seen if you've been following me on Instagram, and even when I go on my breaks from the podcast, I do keep posting over on Instagram and Facebook, so be sure to be following me over there, because there's loads of updates on there as things happen in real time. So you might have seen that we had my sister's wedding and hen do in the Gap, which meant that Peggy got to do some good miles up and down the A1, which was a lot of fun. We took her to Lincoln Zoo, which I've been recommending to loads of people since we went there, and I've also been recommending Lanterns and Larks at Exton near Rutland Water for people who are after a bit of a luxury but interesting camping style experience. It's a really fascinating little spot, great for being kind of tucked away, and the roads around Rutland are absolutely beautiful, and you can do lots of really fantastic driving around there. So if you're looking for an interesting place to get away in your classic, perhaps look into popping along to there. Oh, I've just spotted a Spitfire on the roundabout with me. It was hidden by all the bigger cars on the roundabout. I'm now following it. How exciting. I'm in a little convoy now on the parkway. Peggy also went for a little bit of pampering. You guys know that I've spoken before about getting MOTs and things like that on your classics, and I came to the realisation that it had been 2 years since her restoration and a good bit of time since somebody other than me had done any kind of checks over the car, and I've got a lot better at those sorts of things, but it's always good to have another pair of eyes checking things out. And it was quite nice to go and visit Ian from Minor Services, see some of the stuff that he had in the workshop at the time, get a fresh MOT on her, and have him just go over, service her, and check over that there was nothing to be concerned about. Obviously not really expecting that so soon after the restoration, but lots of things where I put some serious miles on her since the restoration, and it's always good to just get that second opinion. And it was a real tight turnaround, and Ian was very good about that, because I dropped it off and then had to have it back ready for the photo shoot with Classics World. So he's always very good at making sure that if there's a deadline you're trying to work to, he does his best to get it turned around for that. And we had a really lovely time going and picking her up, having a chat and a catch up with him, and then doing a nice little fish and chip run on the way home. Of course, we also had the FBHVC's Drive It Day, and we got out and about in Peggy on that particular day. Obviously, it'd be really nice if we'd managed to get out in both Peggy and Jaffa, but we had something on in the afternoon. We went to the brilliant Quest Brothers meet over at the Pike and Eel, and had a lovely time with them in the morning, and then did a nice drive down the A1 to go to a barbecue with my sister, and Jaffa got some use, obviously, later in the week. I mean, Dry Rip Day is fantastic in that you see so many other classics out and about, and we really did. But equally, our classics are out most days anyway, rain or shine. Literally today, she was out in torrential downpours this morning, and now we've got shine this afternoon. I've also been really getting quite a lot of interest for some of my talks that I do. I think I've done 2 WI talks since we last spoke, and 1 Beavers session. And Beavers, I think, is the youngest that I've done so far in terms of taking the car along, teaching them some basic mechanicking and what all the tools are and things like that. But they were really interested and really engaged. And we managed to get 9 of them sat in the car at the end of it, tooting the horn and having a fantastic time. And again, it's just something that really fills my cup in terms of making me smile, making it feel like I'm doing a good job of being a custodian of Peggy and sharing her with other people. And so many of these kids had never heard of a car show, so when I was explaining what one of those was, let alone kind of what a spark plug was, what that looks like, how that works, it was really fascinating. And it's been a really interesting challenge for me personally to think about how you kind of level the knowledge that you've got for different age groups and to make it appropriate. Obviously, having come from kind of teaching and education, I did a little bit of that at the other end of the scale in terms of making stuff suitable for the university students or for the sixth form students that were coming in and doing taster sessions. But to work with kind of 6, 7 and 8-year-olds has been a real learning curve, and I'm actually on my way now to do another WI talk about Peggy. So really looking forward to sharing some of the new patches on the blankets with them, and also a much brighter and lighter evening than I thought it was going to be, so they might well be able to come outside and have a good look and nosy around the car as well, as part of the talk, which I haven't always been able to do depending on parking and things like that at some of these talks, but it's been fantastic and something that I've been really enjoying doing. You might have seen recently that I also took Peggy to see my favourite sea shanty band in concert. I spoke to them at the end of the last show about Peggy, but we hadn't taken her along, so it seemed fair to take her along this time, especially as she possibly bears the brunt of most of my listening when we're listening on road trips and in the car and even just pottering around town. And one of the songs that I got into the longest johns with was Hoist Up the Thing, which is a very relatable song to me for when I first started out trying to learn to work on the car and make things go. But also I'm a big fan of their album that's called Land Shanties, which is an album of sea shanties all about being in a car on a road trip, etc., which are always very fitting on our longer journeys. So Peggy got a patch from that trip as well, so she's really been expanding those patches, and it feels like a nice little treat now, because it means that there's extra things to talk about at the talks. And the patch from the Longest John's concert is almost certainly going to prove popular. I've started to learn what sort of patches people pick out, which ones catch people's eyes, and it's influencing my choice of patches when I'm out and about. But also it means that when I see a patch that's really good and I know that that's the one that's going to end up on the blanket, I'm really excited about when somebody inevitably points it out at one of these talks. And then to bring you up most recently, this weekend we had a bit of an impromptu trip to the seaside. We had a wedding of one of Jamie's work colleagues that I didn't even realise was that close to the sea, and that meant that we took Jaff along, had a really lovely drive out on the way there, coming in, seeing the sea as we got closer, and then the following day drove along to a bit more of a beachy area and had a glorious drive out around there, and then home. And then afterwards we met up with our friend Dara from the Young Members and Lewis. Dara had very recently, just the day before, bought himself an MGTF and had brought it up to show myself and Lewis and Jamie, and so we had a really nice chat in a pub car park over some lemonade before Dara came and had a mosey at our house, and then headed off home. But it was a really lovely weekend that was more car heavy than I was kind of expecting when I saw it on the calendar, and a real nice little adventure. And that's the thing that we're so lucky with our cars, is just how much we get to use them and enjoy them, because we daily them. We don't think twice about heading out in them, and so everything feels like a bit of an adventure and a bit of a fun trip. So I've definitely been busy, there's been lots going on, and there's lots to look forward to this season. Just this coming weekend I've got the Women Drivers Social Club Workshop Weekender, which I'm really excited for, and I'm really keen to share with you guys how that all goes. I've got the Singer Owners Club weekend where they're celebrating their 75th anniversary, the Morris Minor Owners Club weekend where they're celebrating their 50th anniversary, and inevitably there'll be loads of other stuff that ends up popping up that I end up going for. We've got the Bedford show at the end of the year, and yeah, it's set to be a really exciting and fun year of adventures for us once again, and I'm really looking forward to sharing them and documenting them here once again. So that brings us nicely on to how this season is going to look on the podcast. Obviously, every week I've put a podcast out, and towards the end of season 10 I was starting to get a bit worried that, especially over the winter season, I struggle a bit to come up with topics that I feel are worth discussing, or don't have the time and chance to really invest into making those episodes as good as I would love them to be. And so my answer to that is to make the podcast every other week. That means that when there's a little bit of a gap in the show season, it's covered by the exciting stuff that's already happened. It means it buys me a little bit more time to research and find some really interesting stuff for each and every podcast. Gets me the opportunity to go and get some more of those interesting interviews that I think you all enjoy, and put a bit more work into those, and hopefully end up with a bit better end product coming to you guys on that every 2-week basis. So that means that this season now will be seeing us all the way through November into Christmas, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a fantastic mix, and looking back on where the podcast will have started this season, way in the future, and all the things that we'll have covered will be a much broader range of things, and I hope that you are looking forward to those things too. As always with the start of the summer season, I'd be fascinated to hear what you guys are planning with your classic cars, what you're looking forward to, if there's events that you absolutely cannot miss, or events that you're trying out for the first time this year. But in the meantime, thank you ever so much for listening. Drive safely and happy motoring.